again, I don't, I don't want to go too crazy on how good I think Russell Wilson's going to be.
Russell, let's ride, Chris.
Because at the end of the day, I do think he's, there's a ceiling, especially at his age. But I definitely think Russell Wilson is going to be a significant upgrade over what we've seen at the quarterback position the last couple of years. That's for sure. Based off the fact of he's got a great play caller, he's got a great weapon to throw to, and kind of what Dean just said there. When we had a quarterback in there, I think it was 2 years ago, where Tyrod really, he wasn't with the Giants, of course, last year. So 2 years ago, when Tyrod was with the Giants for the 3 games we saw, Tyrod has had his moments where you're like, okay, that's why he's a backup quarterback, like the goal line play where he audible to a run. But you saw the offense grew. They were taking more shots down the field. They were having more success. And you think about a guy like Russell Wilson, well, that's kind of been his MO since he's been in the league, right? He throws a beautiful deep ball. And now you got guys on this team like a Darius Slayton, like a Jalen Hyatt if he sees the field. We'll see if that happens. They're talking about Gabe Davis potentially coming here. And, of course, like a Malik Neighbors. So I think Russ is going to have a good year for the Giants. I'm not going to say great year, but I think he's going to have a good year. And we haven't seen a good year at the quarterback position at least since 2022. So that's something to be hopeful about if you're a Giants fan. I think we'll have solid quarterback play.
Hot take right here. Hot take. Ready? Timestamp it. If Russell Wilson stays healthy this year, he's throwing for more than 30 touchdowns.
That's a flaming hot take, and I hope you're right. I'm going to say no to that only because now if he was going to play 17 games, I'd say he might. But if the Giants, and if they're in playoff contention, he will play 17 games if he's healthy. I'm just of the belief they won't be. And I think at some point Jackson Dart comes in. So I'm going to disagree with you on that hot take. But if he plays 17 games, I'm not going to rule it out. I think it's a possibility.
Hot takes are supposed to be disagreed with.
It is a hot take.
Russ hasn't thrown for 30 touchdowns since 2020.
We're going right now. Let's ride, Anthony. It's happening.
What I'll say about this comment from Dean, the number one thing that not enough Giants fans talk about is Malik Neighbors' deep receiving abilities, because he was so good last year and everybody's like, oh, he's fantastic. But I don't see anybody acknowledge the fact that he didn't have any breakaway deep passes. Like the long touchdowns that he had against the Colts were short passes that he took to the house. He had a deep one. I think Tim Boyle, of all people, threw it to him against the Ravens and the Eagles. I think those are the 2 that he had. But even those, they weren't like, if you remember when Cruz would just be wide open downfield and, Eli would hit him and he would just take off to the races. Yeah, never Jones. Or OBJ would be wide open downfield. He would have these breakaway deep plays, and Malik Neighbors didn't have any of those last season, which just blows my mind. How did they not spring him open at all? Especially when you look at his stats in 2023 when he was at LSU. I mean, the guy was the best deep threat in college football. He had the 3rd most deep receiving yards of any receiver in 2023. He had the most deep receiving touchdowns, the most deep receiving receptions. The guy made his living in college on the deep ball. And then last year, he caught 7 20-plus yard passes downfield. Like, that was insane to me that the Giants just couldn't find a way to get the ball in his hands downfield. He had 1,200 yards. He had 120 catches, and they all were like from 0 to 20 yards close to the line of scrimmage, which just blows my mind. So if there's one thing that I know that Russell Wilson is going to be able to accomplish this season, Malik Neighbors is going to get the ball downfield, and that's going to be exciting because if he was that good last year with only 7 receptions, 20-plus yards downfield, imagine how good he can be this year with a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield. If he went for 1,200 last year, he could easily go for 1,300. Maybe he could do even more. Like Chris said earlier, top 5 most talented player, maybe the most talented, physically talented player at his position in the NFL. There's no reason why Malik Neighbors can't be the best wide receiver in the league with some average quarterback play, considering how good he was last year with a league worst quarterback play. So that's the number one thing. I can't wait to see Malik Neighbors play with a guy who can actually throw the ball downfield.
You want to call it a hot take? Call it a hot take. Pound for just physical talent. I don't think there's a better receiver in the NFL than Malik Neighbors. That's how talented I think he is. That's how great of a pick I think that was by Joe Schoen. So sky's the limit for Malik Neighbors. Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Corp, thanks so much. It's Tommy the odd man out. I don't see the Giants carrying 4 quarterbacks. It's either Tommy or Jameis will be sacrificed. Unfortunately, I think Tommy's going to the practice squad if somebody don't pick him up. But
I think somebody could pick him up, though. I don't think obviously he's not going to be with the Giants. He's not unless they were to trade Jameis Winston before the start of the year, which I don't think will happen, but you never know. There could be injuries. It's, around the league. Maybe a team needs a quarterback and the Giants get offered a 4th or 5th round pick. I won't completely rule it out. But outside of something like that, he won't be a Giant. But it's possible. Like, I don't think it's crazy to think a team may look at Tommy DeVito and be like, well, he's good enough to be our 3rd string quarterback. Like, the guy's had some success in the NFL. So I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to keep him on the practice squad. I really don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I agree.
I'm sure he would catch on someplace, but I have a feeling he's going to be the sacrificial lamb. Nando, thank you so much, says, I cannot see where to become a member. Well, if you have an iPhone, they don't always work. So what I can do for you, you can try this. We appreciate you wanting to become a member. We appreciate the super chat. This should be the link to the member. If you want to become a member, that should take you there. By the way, if you guys haven't done so, make sure you hit that like button for us. It helps out the stream huge. Hit the subscribe button. We just passed 4,700, so we're on our way to 5K. The drive for 5, baby. Let's go. It's a drive for 5 for the Giants, too. I want a 5th one back here one of these freaking days, and soon, before I die, we need to add one of these.
We're in a couple more before we die. A couple more.
Yeah, a few more. I'm going to live as old as Jerry Jones.
Hopefully they add one more soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I'm almost 50. They ain't one in my lifetime, so that tells you all you need to know about the freaking Knicks. But in 94-99, they beat the Pacers in these conference finals to get there both times. It's set up.
I'll tell you what, Bad Dog, I was thinking about this today on the train ride to work. The Nuggets, of course, are now Game 7 against OKC.
Yeah.
If the Nuggets win that game, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, we got to beat the Celtics first. We got to put them down tonight. But if the Nuggets beat OKC, if the Knicks reach the finals, they are guaranteed home court advantage because both the Nuggets and the Timberwolves had a worse regular season record. So I am hoping and praying that Denver beats OKC. Knock them out.
It would also be pretty amazing if they played Minnesota, seeing as they had that big trade before the year started.
Well, not just that. You also have the Tom Thibodeau element, who also coached for Minnesota. So
right,
That's
Let's not talk about the next. Grim, thank you so much. He says Dart starts New England game, in my opinion. Is that the one after the bye?
That's the one
before the bye. It's the Monday night game before the bye.
I think he would. I know Anthony mentioned. I think the bye being so late. I think if they were going to make an insertion, it would be there. You'd give him an extra week with the starters and give him the starters playbook.
Go ahead, Anthony. What are you going to say?
I think it just happens whenever they're eliminated. So if they're eliminated really early, like we were eliminated, end of October this past season? If they're eliminated end of October, he'll have all of November, all of December, and obviously the one game that we play in January. I just think it happens when they get eliminated. If they're eliminated from the playoffs, there's just no reason for Russell Wilson to play long term, right? Like, what are you playing for? If you're eliminated from the playoffs very early in the season, you might as well get your rookie who you traded up, first-round pick for, get him on the field. First of all, you're getting him experience. Second of all, which is really valuable, you're getting game film that you can evaluate him on in the offseason. I think that's super crucial, whether that's for this regime or the next regime. And then the third reason being, if this regime is eliminated from the playoffs that early and they somehow still have their jobs by the time they're eliminated from the playoffs, the only thing that's going to save them is if Jackson Dart goes on a tear to close out the season. So as soon as they get eliminated, if they do, and hopefully they don't, hopefully Russ goes into the playoffs. I would love to see that happen. But as soon as they get eliminated, I think that is when they're going to transition to him. But if they're just hanging on by a thread, they're not eliminated, but they probably will be soon enough. The bye week, week 14, similar to when Eli Manning took over for Kerry Collins, or Kurt Warner, rather, even though they were in the playoff hunt, that would be the week 14 bye week, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think ideally they're going into the season with the thought process of, well, Russ will keep us good enough where we can hang on by that thread that you just said, and we can milk it till the bye week and then give a taste of Jackson Dart. But plans can change. Like that, I don't think that was the plan with Daniel Jones' rookie year. Otherwise, why did you bring Eli Manning back? At that point, $20 million was a good amount for a quarterback. Why did you bring Eli Manning back if you thought you were going to bench him after 2 weeks? So plans change. I think the Giants panicked in that scenario. They saw they were 0-2, and Shermer said, well, this team has very little hope. I got to start to try to keep my job. Let's throw the rookie in there and see what he's got. Not that I think it's going to happen after 2 weeks, but I could certainly see, especially with the start of this schedule, if the Giants start like 1-6 and they have like no hope for this year, Shane and David may say to themselves, well, if we continue to lose and win 1 or 2 games, we're going to lose our jobs. We got to throw Dart in there now and see what he's got. So I think the plan is to win at least 5 games before that bye so you can milk it and get Dart in there for the last 4 games. But sometimes plans explode. So we'll see how it plays out early in the year. It's important for the Giants to get off to at least a decent start if you want to be able to ease Jackson Dart into the starting role.
Agreed. Nando, I guess the link worked. Thank you for becoming a member, brother. Appreciate it very much. Actually, the memberships are building up. I think you're like our 7th or 8th member. So we appreciate you guys becoming members of the channel. Before we close it out, I want to ask you guys this. Bring the schedule up again. 1 game on this schedule, Anthony, that you think the Giants will win that they have no business winning. If you had to pick one, I mean, I'm not saying that.
Before we answer this, let's label the no business winning games because so what do we consider no business winning games?
That's up to your.
Because I was going to say week 1. I was going to say week 1 versus Washington. Do we have any business winning that? I think it depends on who you ask, but I would say week 1 because if the Giants did get this offseason right, we'll see it as early as week 1 and they'll play better and hopefully surprise. I mean, week 1, I forget who it was. Didn't the Lions lose week 1 last year? And then they went on to not lose another game until 10 weeks later. Sometimes in week 1, you see teams, really good teams, they just kind of slip up. It's the first week of the season, but that hungry team that made a lot of improvements in the offseason somehow gets that underdog victory in the first week of the season. So that would be the Giants for me against the Commanders who, maybe they do go on to win 14 games, but maybe one of those losses, they were just a little sluggish out of the gate, and the Giants end up winning that game that on paper, they really don't have any business winning. That would be the one for me is week 1.
All right. I like that answer. I'm gonna label my no business winning games. I actually don't think the Washington game I would label a no business winning game. I wouldn't pick us. I think Washington's the clear favorite, but I do think it's a game I could see us winning. I know they went to the NFC title game last year. But there's vulnerabilities like we talked about on last week's podcast. Their defense is not good. Their offensive line is, and with our pass rush, I could see us at least making that a game and giving ourselves a chance to win. Going into the season, the no chance to win games, in my opinion, or no business in winning games are the Chiefs, both Eagles games, the Lions game. And those would be my 4. Those would be my 4 no business winning. Now, at Denver is going to be really tough, of course. The Chargers are going to be really tough, but I wouldn't label those no business winning games. So of those 4 games, if you're asking me what's our best chance to win, I think I would go with one of the Eagles games, the home game, of course, because we haven't won in Philadelphia in forever. Because I don't think we're beating the Chiefs. I hope we do, but I don't think we're beating the Chiefs, and I don't think we're beating the Lions, and I probably don't think we're beating the Eagles. That's why I label it a no business winning game, but if I had to pick one divisional opponent, maybe we squeak one out at home against the Eagles.
I'm going to say we're going to beat the Chiefs on our home opener.
I like it.
That's the one we're going to. Their offense hasn't been. Their offense was not good last year. We got a really good defense this year. Obviously, Kansas City's defense is really good too, but I think maybe we catch them there. I think maybe we can catch them. Russ makes just enough plays, and the defense, holds them in check, and we're going to win an ugly game. I think that we can do that. Also, Russell Wilson has a really good record against, I think, Dallas, Washington, and Philadelphia. Take that for what it's worth, which probably isn't worth much of anything. But we'll
what? I just rethought my answer, by the way. I'm actually going to change it if that's okay. I'm going to pick the Lions.
I was going to say,
I think the fact
of the 4 you picked, that would be the one I picked.
Because they changed both coordinators, I could see them taking a slight step back this year. So I amend my answer. I'm going to go with the Lions are my no business game that the Giants could win this year.
Anthony, by the way, maybe Chris doesn't consider no business. We're winning week 1. I'm saying that too. Back to where we belong. All right.
I think we're winning week 1 and we're winning week 2. I think the Giants.
Yeah, boy, let's go. NFC East, put on notice.
I think Anthony took some drugs before the show.
All right.
I like
we're going to end on a high note. Chris kind of lowered it.